Good afternoon, everyone. We will begin our presentation just in 1 minute. Okay, it's 1 o'clock, so let's begin. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and welcome to the Wonders of Literacy for Preschoolers. And thank you so much for joining us. For those who joined us for our first part of the series, The Wonders of Literacy for Infants and Toddlers. And so today is our second webinar, The Wonders of Literacy for Preschoolers. That's the second one in this series. So if you haven't chance to see The Wonders of Literacy for Infants and Toddlers, just go back to our website, elcbroward.org, and to our webinar videos, and you're going to have a chance to see the previous one. So thank you so much again for being here with us. As you can see, our team in this presentation is Dr. Seuss, who had his birthday in March. So I know everybody love and know Dr. Seuss. He's one of the most beloved children's book authors of all time. His books inspire creativity, curiosity, and imaginations for fans of all ages. So let's begin. So sit back and stay put. We will show you a thing or two. Here is my wonderful friend, co-presenter, and co-worker, Miss Ida Brar. Ida, hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Agnes. Thank you for that introduction. Teacher, I am Ida Brar, and I am a quality and education coaching specialist for the ELC of Broward County, serving providers, children, and families in Broward. I was born in a small town in Puerto Rico called Mayagüez, and I have my Bachelor's of Science in Early Childhood from Barry University, my Master's of Science in Reading from Florida International University. I am a class certified observer and MMCI trainer for infant, toddlers, and pre-K. I have worked as an elementary and preschool teacher. I love to teach. This is my passion. This is my calling. I also enjoy traveling and exploring different foods and cultures. And I have been in the early childhood education field for over 20 years. And now I'm going to present my friend and co-presenter and colleague, Agnes. Take it away, Agnes.
Thank you, Ida. So, teacher, I am too. And my name is Agnieszka Baudi. I am also quality and education coaching specialist providing services for broad providers, children, and families. I was born in small city in Poland, all across the pond in Europe. I obtained my Master of Science in Education from Świętokrzyska Academy University in Poland. I am a class certified observer and MMCI trainer for infant, toddlers, and pre-K ages. I also have over 20 plus years experience in early childhood education, starting in Poland, then I've been a little bit in London, England, New York, and in Florida since 2004. I work as a preschool teacher and a director, so I do appreciate what you do. I know how hard you work. I love to also teaching, just like my friend Ida, travel and exploring different food and cultures. So a little bit about us. Next, let's move on to our webinar housekeeping. So as you can see on your right-hand side, you have the GoToWebinar control panel. So when you click this orange rectangle with white arrow, you can either open or close to GoToWebinar control panel. Will have a couple of functions that you might use. When you click on the question triangle, you might post any questions or comments throughout the presentation. Also, we provided to you 5 wonderful handouts that you can download. Simply click on the triangle handouts, and the individual handouts list will pop down, and you can click on each handouts. PDF file will open and allow you to download those handouts. So please don't forget to do that. You can start doing that now. Okay, next let's talk about attendance, credit, posters, and evaluation. All trainings conducted by ELC abroad are in service hours only. Your training certificate will be emailed to you within 24 hours after we finish this presentation, and we send it to your email that you provided to us when you register for the webinar. In order to be marked as an attendee, you must log in into the computer or download the GoToWebinar app on your phone, tablet, or any smart device you might have. Just calling and does not register your attendance, so please make sure to see this presentation, because if you can see us, we can't see you, and the GoToWebinar platform will not mark you as attendant. Therefore, we're not going to be able to issue you a certificate of attendance. Also, as you notice, you no longer have to take the pre-test before you register for a webinar. So after the completion of the training, a process of 5 questions will launch, and also you're going to have 8 questions of survey to answer. So please complete all the information, because we do value your input, and we are interested what other topics of trainings you want us to work on and present to you to help you. That's it. Let's move on and go over what we're going to do today. Welcome and introductions. So we just completed. We're going to go over training objectives and learning outcomes, strategies to help children extend their language learning. We're going to talk about planning a successful literacy learning center, place for publishing in your classroom. We have some checklists, activities, and interactions. We're going to have some posts and videos and strategies for your classroom. So here are the learning outcomes for today's presentation. So what are we going to learn today? We're going to be able to define early learning literacy in early childhood education. We're going to have a list. We're going to be able to list strategies that help preschool children extend their language and literacy learning. We're going to be able to recognize how to support writing and publishing in Literacy Learning Center. And we're going to have lists of tips for talking with children throughout the day. So let's start from this wonderful, wonderful quote from Dr. Seuss. You can find magic whenever you look. Sit back and relax. All you need is a book. So sit back and relax and listen to our presentation. So look at this slide. Do you guys recognize these books above here? I think you do. Of course you do. You're a preschool teacher. It doesn't matter that there are some words missing, right, from these titles. You know these titles and you know these books. Not only that, but you also probably have a favorite among them. Know if one of them is in the rotation in your classroom library and could quote a few pages for anyone who asks. Yes, you could. Like I said, you do know these books. Think about that for a minute. You actually recognize these titles or phrases even when there are words missing. You can fill in the blank because you are familiar with those books, right? With those titles and with the language, and you have probably read these books tens, maybe hundreds of times. Can the preschoolers in your program identify these books titles? Can they extend the book and tell you what these books are about? Think about it. They probably can. And you know why? Because of you, because of the repetition of the words, because you repeat them so many times, because they are familiar with the language, and because of love of books that you, their teacher, have shared with them, and because you are dedicated to early literacy. So, what is early literacy? Let us remind ourselves, if you've been in our previous presentation, infant toddler literacy, you probably remember, but let's remind ourselves. So, what is early literacy? Early literacy is what children know about the reading and writing before they actually read or write. Research shows that early literacy skills are best developed through talking, singing, reading, writing, and playing. Beginning at birth, what you do every day helps prepare your child to become a successful reader. Early literacy is learning about sounds, words, and language. You can support early literacy development by communicating with children, reading and playing with rhyme. Children develop and learn best throughout everyday fun activities like singing, talking, and games. In addition, early literacy refers to development of skills students need in order to transition from learning to read to reading to learn. Think about it. Learning to read to reading to learn. First they learning to read, and then when they reading, you learn more. Then they learn more. They learn everything else. The skills include vocabulary, phonics, language, and numeracy, to name a few. Early literacy gives students the foundation they need in order to learn and grow. Kids who master essential early literacy skills and are reading proficiently in the early grades are more likely to graduate high school and enroll in college. So let's start from our first poll, and just a little hint for you. These questions just may be the posted questions, so please pay attention. Haida, are you ready for first poll?
I sure am. Let's pull away.
Okay, so first Paul, developing language and literacy skills begin at birth through everyday interactions such as sharing books, telling stories, singing songs, talking to one another, or all of the above. Cast your vote. We're going to give you approximately 45 seconds to 1 minute. We'll see how quick you click in. And no worries, we don't see your answers. We don't know who answered how. And just let's have fun. And remember, that might be just the post-test question. Wonderful, we have almost 70%. Okay, few more seconds. I'm about to close the poll. If you haven't chance to answer in here, you can also cast your answer in the question box. All right, let's close the poll and share results. Wonderful, majority of you, look at you, said all of the above. Exactly. The answer is E, all of the above. Learning to read and write doesn't start in kindergarten or first grade. Developing language and literacy skills beginning at birth through everyday loving interactions, like I said before, such as sharing books, telling stories, singing songs, and talking to one another. Learn how adults, parents, grandparents, and teachers it plays a very important role in preparing young children for the future success and helping them become self-confident and motivated learners. So this is connected to our first learning outcome, which was defined early literacy and early childhood education, because we mentioned that in the beginning of our presentation in the definition. So thank you so much for casting your vote, and we're going to move on now. Next to, oh, I went too far. Why is early literacy so important in early childhood? Let's remind ourselves. That was in our first webinar in the series, The Wonders of Literacy for Infant and Toddlers. So let's remind ourselves why this is so important in so early. Literacy begins at infancy and continues as the child grows and develops. So building literacy and language skills help children be kindergarten ready, so they enter school with love of books and ready to learn. This is important for school success because eventually they move from learning to read to reading to learn, as I mentioned earlier. So give every child a great beginning. Children don't automatically learn to read as they grow up. They need to be taught how to read and given rich opportunities to practice their reading skills. Providing high-quality learning experiences ensure every child has the opportunity to develop the skills they need to succeed in school and in life. The ability to read and write, to understand the subtitles of language, to think and reason clearly, and to communicate effectively with others is the key to success in the school and in life. Researchers have identified a window of time from birth to around age 8 as a crucial for child's development of literacy. We're going to have another poll. Ida, are you ready for another poll?
Yes, ready for our second poll. Everyone, ready, set, go.
All right. Reading, writing, and listening are all parts of literacy and they are all connected. Is it true or false? Cast your vote. And this question may be also be in post-its. I don't know. I know what do you think?
Yes, I will be writing some of these answers down just in case.
Hint, hint. Okay. We have 75%. Alrighty. I'm going to close the poll and share the results. There you go. The majority of you said it's true. That's right. The answer is true. Reading, writing, and listening are all parts of literacy and they are all connected. The learning outcome for list strategies that helps preschool children extend their language and literacy learning. Since reading, writing, and listening are all part of literacy, this helps preschool children extend their language and literacy by being exposed to conversations, read alouds, the vocabulary repetition, and daily exposure. So we connected that to our learning outcomes, which is a list of strategies that help preschool children extend their language and literacy. Okay, we're going to close that and we're going to move on. Next, we're going to talk about those non-literacy teaching strategies. So reading, writing, and listening and talking are all parts of early literacy learning, and they are all connected. It's important for younger children to learn to understand spoken language, become aware of different sounds in language, and start learning about printed letters and words. Preschoolers need writing to help them learn about the reading, and the reading to help them learn about writing. They need to talk and listen to help them learn about both. Preschoolers learn about literacy through the everyday things they do in your classroom. It's especially important to encourage a love of reading and demonstrate the power of writing to communicate ideas. When you say, Kayla, please help me and show me how the book turn, how we turn the book's pages, you teach children about handling book and how to read left to right, top to bottom orientation of English. When you guide children's small hands and eye to printed words on the page, this shows them that marks have meanings. And when you listen to children read the scribbles, you encourage them to assign meaning to the marks they have made. How else can you encourage preschoolers to love of reading and writing and oral language so much that they are positively occupying the literacy center? There are countless ways to encourage children's love of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Here are the 9 of the best. As we go over them, think about how many of these ideas can you work into children's play, or maybe you already do. So here we go. The following 9 strategies are a great start to do that. So 1 is hold meaning, thought-provoking conversations, read aloud to individual children and groups, include alphabet activities, support emerging readers as they try to read books and other forms of print, provide books in literacy center in other areas of the room and outdoors, support emerging writing, offer activities that explore a topic, explore the sense of language to increase phonological awareness, and explain how books works and print works. So we're going to go over all these 9 literacy teaching strategies, and we're going to connect some activities to them, and those activities are provided to you. All the activities and books are provided to you in the handouts section. So don't forget to download all the handouts. So the first strategy is hold meaningful, thought-provoking conversations. When talking with children, listen and respond to their questions and comments. Use unusual words such as example calendar and love. Expand what children say, offering more description and using grammatically mature language. For example, if a child say, it ran out, you might respond, your marker ran out of ink. Challenge children to imagine, remember, and think about things they see and hear around them. And invite children to play with sounds and words and think about spoken language itself. So here is this activity to have with children those meaningful thought-provoking conversation, and this activity is simply class dictionary. You can design a little class dictionary in your class, a little book, but first you can introduce children to like a word of the day or of the week, whatever you know is suit for your classroom. Introduce children to that word and have a conversation with them to provoke those conversation and thoughts, so they can explain you, what do you think, Lulu Amaya? What does that word mean to you? What do you understand by that? And so this is the whole process of this activity. I'm not gonna read it to you. Like I said, all these activities are in your handout, so you're gonna be able to have all this materials list and process and suggestions there. So this is an example of class dictionary, and for example, the word imagination for little Gabi. She said that for her, imagination is when we got to do whatever we want with lots of fun things. That's what she understands by imagination. Well, little Chloe said when we think real hard and make fun things, then we tell Miss Louise what we imagine it to be. And I like to imagine my pictures are princesses. So that's imagination by little Chloe. So this is nice, fun activity that you can provoke those meaningful, thought-provoking conversation, class dictionary. So have fun with that. So the next strategy for literacy teaching strategy is read aloud to individual children or groups. And we are going to listen to Ida telling us all about this second strategy. Ida, take it away.
Thank you, Agnes. Yes, so the second literacy teaching strategy is read aloud to individual children and groups, as Agnes mentioned. So let's begin with a collection of diverse, high quality children's books that hopefully all of you do have in your classrooms. So read aloud to the class at least once every week or even more. I say the more the merrier. Share a variety of stories, poems, and information books over time. Talk to children about the text before, during, and after, which I know many of you do. Implement activities related to the book, read aloud that you have done. Read favorite books again and again and again, because we all have our favorites. Read aloud books that reflects children's culture and languages as well. And read aloud to one or several children as often as you can. And in the next slide, I'm going to let you see a little activity which I love. This next activity. This activity is called Dear, Drop Everything and Read. So once you introduce this activity to the children, every time they hear you shout out the word dear, they drop everything and they know that it's time for a special story that you will be reading to them. Love this little activity. So yeah. So like I just mentioned before, you're going to have this all in the handouts. And then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to watch a video clip regarding book reading and storytelling. And Agnes will launch the video and then we'll have a little talk about it afterwards. So enjoy and see you in a bit. All righty, so great. So as you saw from the video, it provides different strategies and techniques on how to read a book and storytelling. They did the silent reading, they did shared what they read, so the child will share something from the book that they read or looked at and share a favorite thing about that book. And then the storytelling with different props and different things in order to engage the children. That was pretty fantastic video clip. I really enjoyed that, and I hope you also did. So let's move on to the third literacy strategy, teaching strategy, which is including alphabet activities. So offer materials to help children learn the letters of the alphabets, which include ABC books, magnet letters, alphabet blocks and puzzles, and alphabet charts as well in your classroom. And I think most of you also have these. It helps to connect the letter names to a meaningful thing. And what is more meaningful to a child is their names. So you can look at the chart. Let's say you have the chart of your children, of all your children's names, and you can say Jennifer and Jamal both start with what letters, boys and girls? And I think some of you do this as well. The letter J, yes, J for Jamal and Jennifer. So let's look at some activities that you can incorporate as well. So this activity is called the letter bucket alphabeteer. So what this entails is that someone in your class, you pick from a hat, and that child is the alphabeteer for the week. So they get to take the letter bucket home and fill it with for the instance, the letter of the week, let's say, is the letter Z, as in the picture, and they will fill their buckets. And this is also something that the parents will do with the child. So they fill the bucket up and then they bring it back, and then we'll talk about all the little things that they gathered with the letter sound of or the letter of the week, and that's the alphabeteer's job. And the parent is also part of this activity, and you will be sending out a example of the parent letter, and this is what it looks like. And you it tells them what to do with the child, and it's a fun activity that they both do together. And you stick it inside the bucket, and then the child goes home and says, mom, I'm the alphabeteer for the week. And so it's a great little activity, and like we mentioned before, you're going to have all of this. So the fourth literacy teaching strategy is support emergent readers as they try to read books and other forms of print on their own. So young children need time and space to explore books and print on their own or with a friend. And you can help them by creating a well-designed literacy center stocked with lots of good books and props for them to inventing and retelling of stories, and also writing materials. And we'll talk about that, the writing materials, a little later. But continuing on, rereading favorite books, especially predictable books with the children that they can chime in, filling the room with meaningful prints such as daily schedule, helper charts, labels that show where materials are stored, and reminders such as pump the soap one time only, and other things like that. Encouraging print and play, such as providing menus for pretend restaurants or suggested children to create them. And then also we're just encouraging them to read along with others and by themselves, and having that space for them. So let us continue on, and regarding supporting children with practice reading. So let's start out with this great quote from Mean Fox. The fires of literacy is created by the emotional spark between a child, a book, and the person reading. It isn't achieved by the book alone, nor by the child alone, nor by the adult who's reading aloud. It is a relationship winding between all three, bringing them together in ease and harmony. Isn't that a beautiful quote? Oh, you should have that in the classroom. So with that being said, children engage in two types of practice reading during the early years. The first one is reading along with the teacher, and this is the kind of practice that the teacher scaffolds the children's reading of a book. And in the scaffolding experience, the child participates, but the teacher does most of the work necessary to keep things going along. Over time, the teacher does less and less of the task as the child takes over more and more. The second type of the practice is independent retelling of a familiar story. In this practice, a child reads a familiar storybook to herself, a teacher, or another child, or a doll, or maybe a stuffed animal. Both reading along with a teacher and retelling stories independently are influenced by the opportunities children have to hear books, language, and learning about the structure of stories, learn about the world in general, and increase their knowledge about print and how it works. As I mentioned, if you were in our previous webinar of the wonders of literacy of infants and toddlers, toddlers will do the book babbling is their first independent practice reading in which toddlers are likely to engage in when they're doing this type of practice reading. So where infants and toddlers, it's called babbling book. And for our preschoolers, it is the independent retelling and the practicing reading with the teacher. Okay, so moving right along, I'm going to show you some predictable books to support that chiming in and independent retelling. So the structure of the predictable book is to help the teacher solicit the child's participation. So for example, in Margaret Wise' book, Goodnight Moon, the narrative introduces key objects in a small bunny's character's bedroom at bedtime. If you know, I think most of you are familiar with this book. The rhyming built into the text and the clear and simple arrangement of the text and illustrations help the children or the child join in. For example, on a number of pages in this book, there are a pair of items that rhyme, such as kitten, mitten, clock, and socks. So the teacher can point to the picture while reading the text. And when you get to the second word of the rhyming pair, the teacher can pause a while, pointing to the object and giving time for the children or the child to connect and the picture, and plus giving that clue of that first rhyme to help that child recall. And by looking at the picture, they can say it's a mitten or it's a kitten. So later in the book, after each object in the room has been introduced, each of the pictures again is the bunny says good night. So it's a you're repeating, and those are the things, and rhyming, those are the things that our young children like to hear. So here again, one or two items appear on the same pages. This book is not a very wordy book, but moreover, the message and the same across the final pages. As earlier stated, everything is named again and is told good night. And thus, the portion of the text are quite easy to remember for the child. And as the teacher reads, she points, she pauses, and the child who has heard the story only a few times can usually begin to join in on some of the pages as you're doing this process. And this is a list of all these predictable books that that is going to be in the handouts as well. Okay, sorry, Agnes. Yes, let's moving forward. Okay, so now we're going to talk about language development and children of practice of retelling. So very young children begin to retell parts of a repetitive text after they had considerable experience in listening to them. So a very young child retelling will reflect the child's immature of grammar and speech. For example, the immaturity sometimes we will see regarding a familiar book when you're reading to an 18-month-old. So when you're reading, for instance, the Dr. Seuss, The Cat in the Hat, to an 18-month-old child, they will pick up some things and they will be delighted to hear some of the things that are on this page, such as, but our fish said, no, no, make that cat go away. Tell that cat in the hat, you do not want to play. You should not play here. You should not play about. You should not play here when your mother is out. So a child of 18-month-old, instead of saying fish, like in the first line, they might say ish and no, no, because no, no is repeated. Same thing in the same book, The Cat in the Hat, you'll hear bump, thump, thump, bump, down the wall, in the hall, and the child can become very excited with these words of repetition and come out with some like sit, which is found on the third page of this book. So that's why I love Dr. Seuss, because he does rhyming a lot and he does a lot of repetition. So let's think about a child for our preschoolers. So our preschoolers, their grammar and articulation place of storytelling is less apparent for the toddler, but for the preschooler, they have more, they pick up more, let's say. So for instance, their language is more developed, so a preschooler often may just change irregular verbs when they're retelling a story. Instead of, for example, like if you're reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar and the child changes to field instead of saying felt. So that's what a preschooler may be doing. And also, let's remind ourselves of other children who speak a different dialect and translate the English text into their dialect when they retell a story. So preschooler children who are learning English as a second language often retell a text using grammar that is typical to the second language learner. So they're doing it with their first language, if it's in Spanish or anything like that, they'll change it like into their language and things like that when you have that English language learner. And in all cases, accuracy in retelling a story will increase over time, not simply because the child has learned it many more times, but because he or she's maturing oral language contains more of the standard language form found in the story itself. So after a child has participated a number of times in the scaffolding reading experience, which you have done with them with a particular book, he or she usually goes back and forth between scaffolding and that independent reading of a book. So often over a period of months, usually it takes for a child to kind of memorize the book. And you notice that you'd be like, wow, this child knows this book inside and out, in order for them to, predict what the next thing will be. So the next thing I'll talk about is that literacy center. Let's see what's going to go on there with our fifth literacy teaching strategy, which provide books in the literary center and in other areas of the room, and also outdoors as well. That's a great place to, read a story is outside. So be sure to offer a wide variety of styles and books, such as information books and magazines, which introduce new vocabularies and concepts. Books, songs, and poems with strong rhyming. For example, Rafi's Down by the Bay, love that one. Stories with strong narrative plots, such as Sophie's Squash, which is another great one. Books in the children's home language and in English as well. So the more the merrier, as I say. Books that reflects the children's culture, their family, and life experiences. Those great classics that we just mentioned, like Good Night Moon, and new literatures that are coming out as others are writing great children's books. And books with beautiful and inspiring illustration also is very attractive in your centers outside and outdoors. So let us look at an activity that you can do with this is a very simple activity. So the child will bring in one of their favorite books, and you will put it in the middle of the floor, and they get to exchange a book with their classmates. Just make note of what book is being taken home. They take it home with them for about a week, and they return it. And then it's like having your own little public library in your classrooms. And then you can see what other children's favorite books are, and they can start talking about it amongst themselves as well. So this is a great activity, the book exchange. All right, so moving on from that, I'm going to read you this great quote from Dr. Seuss is, the more that you read, the more things you will know, the more that you learn, the more places you'll go, from Dr. Seuss. So remember, books open the children's minds to imagination. They learn new things with books, see places they've never seen before, and maybe one day they will want to visit as they get older. So books open the world to many possibilities. So that's why we have so many different variety of books in our classroom. So let's move on to the sixth literacy teaching strategy, which is support emergent writing. So I kind of mentioned it before a little bit in the beginning of my little portion of this webinar, and now we're going to talk about it more. So young children need easy access to material so they can build their writing skills, including scribble writing. I know some of us be like, oh, that's scribble scrabble. Not necessarily. Those are random letter stringing that they start doing and invented spelling. So offer them a writing center, perhaps part of the literacy center that I mentioned before, and stack it with pens and pencils, markers, paper, and bookmaking supplies as well. Demonstrate of writing, for example, listen to and write down what a child's description of their drawing that they just did. and ask them about it. Don't assume what it is. Ask them about it. Opportunities for meaningful writing, like for instance, center sign-up sheets. You maybe have a sign-up sheet for different centers, a library book checkout slips, or please save. Let's say a child is doing something in the block area and wants to continue later, and you have the please save, like, don't tear it down. We're going to come back to it later, or maybe the next day. So writing materials children can use for their play, for example, pencils and notepads to do prescriptions, like in the housekeeping area, because now it's a doctor's office, and taking orders or creating grocery lists. So in the next one, I'm going to show you a great little activity that's connected to this strategy. It's called writing, writings, which is pretty easy, right? So have a writing error in your classroom, even the child's scribble writing is important to them, because to them it may be a great story. You may look at it and say, okay, I don't know what that is. That's scribble scrabble. But to them, as they're learning, it could be a great story that they're doing. Is that the writing has not developed yet for it to look like letters. So I encourage the children to write their own stories and have a variety of writing tools and papers for them to create their own story. So this is a process that you can do in your classroom, and having a writing area. And just remember in the back of your mind that scribble is a great story. Okay, so the next one is the seventh literacy teaching strategy is offer activities that explore a topic. So when children choose and they study topics such as maybe shoes or pizzas, they gain a valuable background knowledge and have an opportunity to use reading, writing, and language skills as they are being exposed to this topic. So children can listen to the teacher read topic related information from books, website, or other sources that and look at these resources on their own as well. Gather data using observation, experiments, interviewing, and such. Record observations and information. It could be like little scientists and kind of like see and trying to research. Revisit what they have learned throughout the dramatic play area, because you can change that dramatic play area. You can change into so many different things. Above all, make sure that children enjoy and succeed in the writing, reading, writing, and spoken language experience. Make it fun. Don't make it a chore or something like you have to do. It's something that should be natural. When children have fun with literacy activities, they will come back to them again and again, and creating healthy learning habits on how, and this will continue on as they get older as well. So let's look at a little activity. So this topic is about dinosaurs, and most of our children love dinosaurs, and they can say all those dinosaur big words that you'd be like, oh, that's how you say that? Okay, but let's say that dinosaur is one of the topics that you're going to have hands-on activities regarding this topic. You're going to dive deeper into this topic. You may have like a little digging area where they can find dinosaurs. There's so many things that you can do regarding dinosaurs. Go on a dinosaur hunt with this activity, and then there's a website that we have provided for you that's startwithbooks.org, and Agnes will click on it. And I love this because this is like not reinventing the wheel. Everything is there for you. The topics and different things that you can do, science, nature, math. It is, and there's the dinosaur one. Just go. Remember to make a little note of the website and look at all the plethora of information that you get regarding this. And that's one of the books that we have in our little slide right there. There you go. So yes, we're not reinventing either, Agnes and I. We are like, diving into it, looking for things. Look at those hands-on activities. Don't have to break. Oh, let me go click into here. And we have provided the website for you as well. So remember, the website is www.startwithabook.org, and click on it and put it in your favorites and bookmark it. And now Agnes is going to talk about our eighth literacy teaching strategy. Take it away, Agnes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ida, for this wonderful information. So I'm going to be going through the rest of the um, strategies for teaching literacy. So the eighth strategy, literacy teaching strategies, explore the sounds of language to increase phonological awareness. Children love to play with sounds and words and often find things quite funny. Play games and listen to stories, poems, and songs that involve rhyme, So have fun with words that end with the same sounds. For example, see you later, alligator, or alliterations. Play with words that begin with the same sound. For example, do race car raced into the restaurant? Sound matching. Play games to find which word begins with a specific sound. For example, listen to the word dog. Dog start with the sound. Which of these words start with the same sound as dog, bird, dog, or cat? So let's watch a little short clip to explore ideas how to teach phonological awareness. And we'll be back right after this short video clip. So as you could see on this little short video clip, there's many games that you can incorporate in teaching children phonological awareness, playing with rhymes, alliteration, sound matching. So if you're interested and you want to see this video again, here is the link to it. So take a screenshot, or simply you can send me an email or Ida, and we're going to email you back with the link to that video. Or you can just take a screenshot right now. So let's move on to our ninth strategy to teach literacy, which is explain how books and print works. So while introducing and reading books and other texts, you can help children learn to the conventions of print by pointing to the print as you read it, inviting children to notice the differences between pictures and print, show how books in English are read from left to right, top to bottom, pointing out different parts of books like the cover and title page. I'm sure all of you do that. Also introduce who's an author or illustrator. encouraging children to join in with repeated lines when you read their favorite stories. So let's talk about how to develop print awareness and what it is. What is print awareness? A child who has print awareness understands that print represents words that have meaning and are related to spoken language. Kids who have print awareness are able to do things like hold a book correctly and understand that books are read from front to the back. They also realize that sentences are read from left to right. Print awareness is one of the most critical pre-reading skills. Among five of them, without print awareness, children are unable to develop other literacy skills such as reading, spelling, and handwriting. And how print awareness develops? Kids who are read to on a regular basis naturally pick up many of the skills by following the examples of the people around them. A child's print awareness develops when those close to him point out letters and words in text found in child's environment. It also develops through playing word games, when you turn the pages of a book, and when you run your finger under a line of text as you read. On the next slide, I'm going to show you activity to support development of print awareness and a little quick checklist for print awareness to check either in your classroom or you can share that checklist with your parents for them to check of their children's print awareness. So this is a little activity. Read aloud for parents. All they have to do is read with children every day and choose model how to learn how to read the book uh, and just spend some time with children reading them, which is very important. Here's the process. Like I said, we have all those activities listed and explain all the process and materials needed in your handout. Here's the little quick checklist for print awareness. So you can share that, like I said before, with your parents, or you can also have that list and check it with your children in your own classroom. So next, we're going to have another poll. Ida, are you ready for another poll?
Yes, I'm excited for this next one. I think they're going to know this one, Agnes.
Okay, let's see. Preschool children start to write long before they ever learn to read. True or false? Cast your vote. Okay, we have almost 50% votes in. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results. Fantastic. So majority of you said that preschool children start to write long before they ever learn to read, which is true. So let's find out in the next slide how to support. Oh, I went way too far. Sorry, the technology is great when it works. Okay, so here we are. Supporting writing in preschool. Here are the 10 ways to support writing and help children put their thoughts on papers. So preschool children start to write long before they ever learn to read. Here you go. There is your answer to the poll. Teaching children to love writing and understand its value and importance is one of the most important goals of preschool program, even more important than getting them to form letters and words correctly. So here are the 10 great ways to support writing. One, supply all the centers in your classroom. Includes various types, shapes, colors, and sizes of papers, crayons, pencils, markers, tape, and scissors, and new materials as the children interest charge. Two, create a well-stacked writing center. Have envelopes, stationery, magazines, pieces of wrapping paper, wallpaper samples. Some teachers made blank books. Have some stickers, blank labels, and writing and drawing tools. Invite children to write or dictate stories and suggest that they read their stories to the classmates. Encourage reluctant writers to dictate stories to you. You can also dictate stories for children to write down. This is especially exciting to children at the inventive spelling stage. 3. Value children's writing attempts. Most children go through stages of emergent writing, from scribbles to letter-like forms and finally through real letters. It is important for a young child to see him or herself as a writer, author, whose marks on paper have meaning. Explain that not two people write the same way. Comment on children's efforts without placing too much emphasis on letter formations until they are ready. 4. Share children's writing. Display in the classroom and send the writing home. Explain to families in the newsletter, workshops, or notes accompanying their children's work that the children's writing attempts have real meaning. Make the big deal about it and make them proud. 5. Comment on children's writing. As children read their writing to you, ask questions to support and expand their writing, like, can you describe what the puppy looks like? Or, do you think you will remember who gets the pizza with meatballs, or do you need to write the names of your customers next to their orders? 6. Model the value of writing. Let children see you writing in daily journal, making a list of supplies to order for the classroom, jotting down notes about them, and writing reminders to yourself. While you are writing, say, I'm writing a note that says guitar to stick on my door so I remember to bring it to school for music time tomorrow. Provide sticky notes so the children can write their own reminders. 7. Display the various types of print. Post print around the room and integrate it into Writing Center. Display words that have meaning to the children and that support the writing. Examples include lists of the children's names, phrases like happy birthday and I love you, street signs, labels for materials and interest areas, charts with words of favorite songs and poems, class rules, and so on. And I'm sure most of you already do so. Plan activities that involve reading the room. Tell the children that they will be explorers with clipboards and pencils. Have them hunt for certain letters, names, or words, and then write them on their clipboards. 8. Collect items from real-life settings. Whenever you visit a supermarket, bank, restaurant, medical office, store, or another everyday place, ask for literacy materials unique to the settings for the children to use during play. These include order pads, menus, appointment cards, blank recipe pads, and so on. You'll be amazed on how cooperative shopkeepers and business professionals are once you begin this quest and explain why you need those stuff for. Also send home letters to families requesting similar materials. Parents can help a lot. 9. Take the classroom writer's tour. Every couple of weeks, notice whether you need to replace or refresh writing tools in each center. What can you do? What can you add or change about your writing center relative to the current interest of the children to make it more inviting? 10. Consider each child's writing. Observe child writers and collect samples of their work. Use what you know about particular children to plan exciting experiences and provide new materials for further enhance of their writing. So next, let's see how it works. How children experience writing in each learning center in a classroom. In the center time, in class of 4 years old, 7 children are writing as they play. In the art center, Cameron is making birthday card for her daddy. She asked the teacher how to write happy birthday. She suggests that Cameron look at the birthday card in the classroom greeting card collection. In the block center, Devon and Jonathan are taping a sign they have just completed onto their building. They tell the teacher that it says firehouse. Don't be scared of loud bells. She asks if they want to make up a name for their firehouse and write it on the sign. In the Dramatic Play Center transformed in a pizzeria, Elaine is using a notepad to take food orders from Giovanni and Amari. She reads, pizza with meatballs and 2 pizzas with lots of cheese. In the writing center, Shivani is choosing paper to staple together so she can write a book about her new puppy. She starts by drawing a picture of her dog. And now it's time for another poll. Ida, you ready?
I'm ready for our next poll. Another good one. Here we go.
So, in literacy learning center, children learn. What do you think? Social emotional skills, language skills, and literacy, math skills, or all of the above? Let's see. Launch the poll, and you cast your vote. Thank you for voting. We almost have 50%. Okay, cast your votes, guys. And remember, this might just be another post this question. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now and share the results. There you go, all of the above. That's right, the answer is all of the above. The learning outcomes for this poll define early literacy and early childhood education is connected to this poll question because since the children learn social and emotional skills, language and literacy skills, and math skills, which are part of early literacy and early childhood education, which has been established through research and our own experiences with young children as early childhood educators. So here you have all of the above, and it's connected to one of our learning outcomes for today's presentation. Thank you so much for casting your vote. And let's move on. Let's talk about those literacy learning centers, what children do and learn. So as we explored in the poll, children learn language and literacy. And before we start talking about what they do and learn, learning literacy centers help ensure that children have access to a variety of books and literacy tools to practice reading and writing and increase their vocabulary and comprehension skills. So reading also sparks children's imagination and helps them learn about the world around them. So they learn language and literacy. They learn new words, like names of different types of dinosaurs, which are hard to pronounce. They play with sounds of words or phrases like sheep tag and sheep shrug in the rhyming book Sheep in the Jeep by Nancy Shaw. Learn letters names and that letters represent sounds and that words are made up of letters. Remember and understand stories by retelling them using puppets or other flannel boards materials. They listen to and look at books with teachers to learn how the print works. They sign their names on artwork, make signs for the block area, write homemade books and letters. In math, they count along in stories such as the Baker Dozen accounting book by Dan Anderson. Every time the baker makes another treat, children can count and wing along with him. They write or use stamps and ink pads to add page number to homemade books. They look at and discuss concept of books. They put out materials and go in the front of the 2 chairs and are able to say how many children can sit at the writing table. In the social emotional, they develop relationship with school staff and community members by drawing, dictating, or writing thank you letters. They make all about me books, and when the children can create and reread books on their favorite subject, which is themselves, and learn about people by reading about people who have different cultures, life experiences, or points of view. For example, children from Florida can learn about how children from Idaho spend their Christmas or what they do in the winter time, and children from Idaho know how children from Florida spend their winter by going to the beach because they never have snow. So these are the things that they learn, and social emotional. So next, let's talk about the setting up the literacy center. We're going to talk about some setup tips, budget strategies, what can we do beyond basic, storage and organization, inclusion of children's families and cultures. So your literacy center should be located in a relatively quiet area of the classroom or childcare center. Literacy center usually have a low noise of level, as you know, but the noise level can rise if children are reading to each other or are listening to an audiobook. Consider locating the literacy center close to other centers that have a quieter noise level, such as the art center or technology center. Depends of your children behaviors, and you know your children the best, so you will know how to set up the centers, but usually they should be next to quieted centers. Select books that reflect children's interests, abilities, families, cultures, and languages. Offer new materials regularly, just support current projects and children's evolving skills and interests. Arrange the spaces so children can work alone with friends or two or in small groups. Leave an open space where children can gather for story time or another large group activity. When it comes to budget strategy, use the school or community library, get books from online booksellers, yard sales, secondhand stores, dollar stores, and outlets, exchange book with other preschool classroom, or like Ida was talking about that activity, exchange book in your own classroom. Children can bring their books from homes, exchange, and then bring them back and exchange it again. You can have your own personal class library. Ask home improvement stores for old wallpaper sample books. Children can write on the back of the samples or use them to line the covers of their homemade books. And beyond basics, include a computer and printer with power cords, of course, out of children's reach for safety, so children can print and keep their display their creations. Children can also use the computer to visit literacy websites. The computer program or website will read the same story aloud 100 times without tearing, like a actual physical book, and provide adaptive computer devices for children with physical, visual, or hearing disabilities. When it comes to the storage, store materials on low shelves that gives children easy access, well stacked with variety of materials. Children can easily become bored with using the same materials over and over again. Neat and organized centers, of course, because children should be able to find the materials they want to use without having to search through a lot of clutter. And also, if the center is organized, the expectation is that the children will help keep it that way, and they learn, of course, good habits of keeping them clean and organized. Here you can see the examples of some reading and writing areas. When it comes to including children's families and cultures, invite family members to volunteer to read aloud, write children's dictation, or go to the library with the class and help children pick out books. Prepare tip sheets on literacy topics such as choosing books, reading aloud, finding print all around us, modeling reading and writing, and using websites. As you can see here on the slide, PBS, Kids Raising Readers website, and Coloring Colorado. These are very great websites that you can explore with the children, or the families can explore with their children. Provide a list of basic, inexpensive writing materials, suggest ways to create a portable or permanent writing area where children can draw, scribble, and write at home or outside in the backyard. Share home literacy ideas in newsletter or emails. One idea, for example, prepare a shopping list with your children's help, write items as they name them. At the store, have your children cross the items you found already in the store. Also encourage families to routinely go to the community library and participate in children's events there. Request the parents record themselves reading the story or poem. Children can play these recordings when they want to hear the parent's voice while they're at the center. Ask families to suggest books that are their children's favorite or that represent their culture or background to include in their classroom library. And ask families to take their children and organize trips to community local libraries and explore how to rent a book in the regular library, which brings me to this great quote from our great Albert Einstein that the only thing that you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. Okay, so this activity is a librarian. So you going to, if you don't have it already, librarian into your daily jobs. And you're going to have a librarian job for children to be picked daily. And materials, you just need the books, and the librarian will share the book with the class. And the whole process here, you have written, like we said, all these activities are listed in the handouts that we provided to you. So don't forget to download them. And next, we're going to talk about another great idea for your classroom, a place for publishing your own books in your classroom. So Ida will tell us all about it. Ida, take it away.
Thank you, Agnes. Yes, besides having that literacy center and the writing center, why not have a publishing center in your classroom? How amazing is that? So, a place for publishing housed within the literacy centers offers tools and space for children to write, illustrate, and produce books. They might write and publish books about events at home or at the program itself, meaningful accomplishments that they have done, maybe field trips and other topics of interest. So, what do children do and learn in this publishing area? So, with math, they recognize and repeat patterns while they make page borders with stencils. They can measure the pages and covers and the yarns or laces that they may use in order to put it together. Understand the meaning of symbols while they're counting out and numbering the pages in their books. Another thing that's connected to this is social and emotional, sharing materials as they are publishing and creating their books, taking turns maybe using the computer or other equipments, self-regulating and cooperating by making and carrying out plans along with their friends and classmates. Another thing that is connected, that what they do and learn, is that physical, to move the mouse around to select that picture or image that they want, maybe using the keyboards as well, cutting with the scissors. Cutting is a great, and it could be a little challenging for some of our little ones, but it's great. How about the hole puncher, making those holes in order to lace through that yarn, or in order to put it together. And of course their drawing and paintings with variety of tools that you have placed there as well. So those are the three things that children can do in the publishing. This is setting up a place for publishing, and call it a place for publishing. As you see the slide and the picture there, un lugar para publicaciones. Oh, love it. So setting up, it's kind of like also what Agnes have mentioned before regarding the literacy center. So locate the publishing place along with the literacy learning center or close to it, not in a very noisy area. You may have technology to place there, you may have not, which is okay, but also keep it away from area where, if from the library area where the children are reading, because it might get a little noisy because they're publishing, they're talking and they're figuring things out. Have a table long enough to hold equipment and spaces for children to work. If you do have computers and things like that, make sure that they're near an outlet, and make sure that you tag up all the cords in order to prevent any tripping incidents. So for example, the materials that you may have there is paper, cardboard, scissors, tape, crayons, staplers, hole punchers, yarn, string, lace, things to put the books together, all the pleasure of things in order to publish that book. So let's talk a little bit about those budget stretchers. Also, my thing is, like, I love to go to ask donations in local businesses, maybe yard sales when they open up. Another place, apply for grants. So, as childcare, early childhood educators, we're looking always for grants and things that we can get for free. And one place that you can go is the U.S. General Services Administration's computer for learning program, which is www.computersforlearning.gov. Go in there and see what we can find out. And storage, like Agnes mentioned before, have things where the children can easily access this to them. All the materials that they need, make sure everything is neat and organized, and that way they have the expectation that things go in a certain place and keep it nice and neat. And also, last but not least, remember always, like Agnes mentioned before, include the families. So moving along is once upon a time, publishing books in your classroom. Let's talk about that book publishing steps. So the first step is tell a story. A child dictates a fiction or nonfiction text to the teacher, who writes it on a paper in the child's home language or English. And some children may create a wordless picture book, which is fine as well, telling a story with just illustrations alone. And then while other children will illustrate and draw and paint and cut out pictures from like magazines and printed websites, or even take digital photos, creating the pages or putting it together, and both the text and illustration. And then, like we said, punching holes and or laminating and making that book special as, how they want to put it together in that cover. And then enjoy the finished product. Teachers help children display and share their books with classmates. Children read the books alone or share with a friend, even take it home to read to their families. And teachers read the book aloud also in group time. So you don't necessarily need a computer, because children can do fascinating things. This is a book publishing in your classroom. So let's say Brown Bear, we know. So you're gonna change it up, and it's like Brown Bear, your class of book in your classroom. And what basically you do is the animals' names, you're gonna change it to the children's names and add their picture to it, have it in your library, as you can see from the slide, and then they can see themselves in this book, and they're all familiar with the Brown Bear book. So now it's about them. Okay, so what is your role, the role of the teacher for the literacy-rich environment is to encourage all attempts at reading, writing, and speaking, allowing students a variety of abilities to experience the different functions and the use of literacy activities. Not children, but teachers and children interact with each other, and also include our children with disabilities at work. We're an inclusion community, which builds on the children's knowledge as well as develop their literacy skills. Teachers use a variety of methods to communicate with students by asking questions, labeling objects and experiences with new vocabulary, offering practice to help students remember and generalize new concepts and skills. Teaching staff also plan activities so that students can have more opportunity to integrate and extend their literacy knowledge regarding read alouds and listening to other students as they read, and so on. So another strategy also that involves the staff members is intentionally making mistakes, because when you make a mistake, that's part of editing and revising, which is part of that publishing, and modeling for children the importance of making mistakes while demonstrating the writing process, because we're not all perfect and we are going to make mistakes, of course. So the other thing that I'm going to talk about is those ongoing assessments. So, in your classroom, observing and documenting the growth of children's vocabulary and emergent literacy developments requires focused observations and intentional engagement with the children. Watch how the preschoolers show they understand you and others, and how they begin to use more and more words to communicate. Also observe how preschoolers begin to develop their literacy skills, which has started when they were infants and toddlers, because we mentioned this in our previous webinar. And it is important to have ongoing two-way communication with families. We can't stress that enough, about their language and what they understand and use at home, to help you assess the children's vocabulary and emergent skills even more. So, okay, so this is a great quote from Stephen Hawking, and this is, "Nothing is better than reading and gaining more and more knowledge." So by exposing children to literacy and reading to them, they will gain so much knowledge, curiosity, and also develop their social and emotional skills as well. Can't emphasize that enough. So here are some strategies for children from multicultural backgrounds, which we all This is South Florida, and we have a very diverse populations of cultures and multicultural backgrounds. So literacy rich environment supports that English language learner as well. So many students come to school without understanding and speaking English. Some of us have had children like that. So therefore, a classroom that incorporates the elements of literacy rich environment can help English language learners access the general education curriculum that is being exposed to them. So some of the strategies that you can use, a lot of read aloud frequently, includes children's primary language and print around the classroom. Allow children to make mistakes when attempting to use that second language, and they are going to make mistakes. Encourage the children to read the same book repeatedly to become familiar with it. Plan activities that involve using language, have in-depth conversations with the family, and find out what the language they use, what their feelings and values are about language, and what their culture are. And remember, again, to develop that two-way relationship with the family. Bring language into your classroom through labeling and familiar books and stories important to their culture. Create context for books by reading it beforehand in the child's home language. So by learning a few words, the children understand so that they hear that language and they understand that the teacher values their first language or home language. Okay. Another great quote from one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Walt Disney. If anybody knows me, I am a Disney fanatic kind of person. So here's the
Yep.
quote. There is, yes, you know, Agnes, there is more treasure in books than in all the pirates loose in the treasure island. And best of all, you can enjoy these riches every day in your life. So by doing this, by opening up children's wonder to literacy with books, will enhance their adventure and curiosity. So let's do that, everyone. This is our last poll. So hopefully you've been writing them down. So here we go. Our last poll is having a good conversation with young children will help build skills necessary for reading and writing. And Agus is going to launch the poll. And I know you guys are going to be clicking away. This is going to be easy peasy, as I say. All right, how's it going? Let's see. 100% true. Kiss your brain. You guys are amazing. Yes, this one has to do with our learning outcome of talking with children throughout the day. And this is what Agnes is going to talk about next. Thank you so much, Kiss Your Brain. You guys made me proud.
Okay, thank you, Ida. So next we're going to go over some tips for talking with children. But first, let's see how much happens in this short conversation between teacher and child during a cooking play in the dramatic play center. So Miss Allen, what ingredients did you use? Lucy, I poured the flour and stirred the eggs. Now what? The flour got on me and on the floor. Miss Allen, then what happened? Lucy, we put blueberries in the bowl. 100 cups. Miss Allen, that's a lot of blueberries. Lucy, I put them in all by myself. So in less than a minute, this teacher learned that 4-year-old Lucy feels confident and proud about helping her mother bake. She's working on number concepts and measurements, and is eager to talk and share stories. In response, Lucy's teacher plans a cooking activity, adds a new counting game to the math area, and then writes a note to herself to read Blueberries for Sally by Robert McCloskey with Lucy. Throughout this brief chat, Lucy is learning new words and how to form sentences. She is learning how to listen, and these are all skills Lucy and all the children will build on as they learn to read and write. On the next slide, we will go over those 10 tips for having good conversation with young children. Here are the 10 tips for having good conversation with young children. So first of all, make sure both people get a turn. A conversation doesn't have to be long, but it does have to involve taking turns, talking and listening, and aim to switch speakers at least 5 times. 2. Use facial expression and comments. They show you are listening and interested in the child's ideas and comments. Nod your head, smile or laugh, and say, really, or tell me more about it. 3. Pause after you say something. That gives the children time to think and focus on their ideas. 4. Describe what you see children doing. Young children often talk as they draw, paint, or build. Say, I noticed you are using a lot of orange paint. What made you decide to use that color? What does your painting remind you of? 5. Ask children to tell you their stories. When Liana shows you her new shoes, you could say, I see you have new red shoes. Tell me about your trip to the store to buy them. 6. Talk about books. After reading time, ask children, what did you like about that story? What didn't you like? Who does that character remind you of, and why? There was one part that made us all laugh. What else did you think was so funny in the story? 7. Invite children to teach you how to do something. Children may simply demonstrate, but as they do, you can carry on conversation. Tell me, how do you draw house? I see you making some straight lines. Oh, and squares for windows. 8. Ask open-ended questions. Children can then come up with variety of answers. For example, ask, what are some things you notice about your guinea pig? Avoid question with one-word answers. What color is that? How many peas do you have on your plate? Questions like this stop the conversation. 9. Encourage self-expression. Some children express their opinion freely. Others need to be asked their views. What do you think about this artwork? What you don't or do you like with today's snacks? 10. Connect the conversation to the child. You can refer to a child's home life, previous events or other things you've talked about. On Monday morning, said to child, you're excited about going to grandpa's birthday party this weekend. Tell me all about it. So next, we are going to talk about books that they are a very powerful way to support children's social, emotional, and behavior development. Reading with children is an excellent way to build brain power and language development. Through books and stories, children can learn skills and watch other characters go through emotions similar to those they experience themselves. Reading and hearing stories about emotions, interactions with friends and family, and ways to work through difficult situations is a positive and fun way for children to learn behavioral and social emotional skills. So if your student throws their toys, tell a story about a child who learns how to treat their toys nicely. Books are effective at helping children, teachers, and parents learn and teach about appropriate behavioral expectation, social skills, and emotional experiences. Here are some examples, suggested books to support children's social, emotional behavior development and inclusion and diversity. This also is included in your handouts. So don't forget to download those handouts. So you have the series here, um, simple words and lively full color illustration and durable board books for preschool age children by Elizabeth Verdick. It's a guide to children to choose positive behaviors, and each book in this preschool book series include a special section for parents and caregivers with ideas for discussions and activities. So you have feet are not for kicking, germs are not for sharing, hands are not for hitting, pacifiers are not forever, teeth are not for biting, words are not for hurting. So feel free to explore all those, and you can have some activities and ideas for discussions with children. Another great series of books for older children will be this one, Ordinary People Change the World series by Brad Meltzer, and this is a series of book about all those famous heroes that we know, and we can introduce them to our youngsters. And for example, Albert Einstein, he was described as a weirdo or loner. So these are the books that you can explore with children, and show them that not necessarily being different and quiet in the classroom is a bad thing, and that will help children. With bring me to this wonderful uh, quote from one of the mothers from the Scholastic blog. That is the power of diverse book. You can change everything for one kid, and you create empathy in 100 more. So next, we're going to share with you a cute little book about some naughty pigeon who wanted to drive a bus. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus. Hi, I'm the bus driver. Listen, I've got to leave for a little while. So can you watch things for me until I get back? Thanks. Oh, and remember, don't let the pigeon drive the bus.
I thought he'll never leave. Hey, can I drive the bus?
Mm-mm.
Please, I'll be careful.
Nope.
I'll tell you what, I'll just steer. My cousin Herb drives a bus almost every day. True story.
I don't think so.
Vroom, 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 vroom. Pigeon at the wheel.
Oh boy.
I'll never do that again. Oh, I never get to do anything, sorry. Hey, I got an idea. Let's play Drive the Bus. I'll go first.
I don't think so.
Come on, just once around the block.
I said no.
I'll be your best friend. How
Nope.
about I give you $5?
Not gonna work.
No fair. I bet would you let me later? What about a big deal? I just a bus. I have I have a dream, you know. Fine,
Nope.
fine. Let me drive the bus.
Nope.
Oh man, I really want to drive that bus.
I'm back. You didn't let the pigeon drive the bus, did you? Great. Thanks a lot.
Oh, hmm.
Bye.
Oh, hey, maybe I can drive a truck.
So thank you everyone for reading along with us today. The story "Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus." What a funny story, right? What did you think? What did you think? How was the pigeon handling his emotions? I find that this story is very good for many people because it shows the different emotions the pigeon goes through when being told no. And for some people, especially young children, that can be difficult growing up. But what are your suggestions and comments about the story? Do you think that the pigeon will be able to drive the fire truck now? Okay, thank you so much. So let's go and connect everything together, what we learned today. We learned one of our learning outcomes was define early learning in early childhood education, as we went over the definition of early learning literacy at the beginning of our presentation. We listed strategies that help preschool children extend their language and literacy learning. Remember, we went over the 9 strategies for literacy and activities to support them. The third goal was for you to recognize how to support writing and publishing in the Literacy Learning Center. So we talked about setting up Literacy, Writing and Publishing Center. And then our last outcome, learning outcome was to list tips for talking with children throughout the day. And when we went over the 10 tips for having good conversations with young children, to make sure that both people get a turn to speak, use facial expression and comment, pause after you say something, describe what you see children do, and ask children to tell you their stories, talk about books, invite children, teach you how to do something, ask open-ended questions, and so on. So we covered all these learning outcomes throughout this presentation. So next, Ida will go over some handouts for you that we are prepared. So Ida?
Yes, thank you, Agnes. Make sure that you click on the handouts and they will download into your computer. We have 5 great handouts and they'll, like I said, you download them and it'll be PDF and these are your certificate will be mailed to you 24 hours. And as Agnes is showing you, these are the handouts that we have provided for you, and all the activities and books that we've talked about is one of the handouts. So make sure you download all that. And this is our references. This is where we got the plethora of information to come up with this great webinar for you. And Agnes will talk about the upcoming webinars that we have.
Okay, so on Tuesday, April 13, 6:30 to 8:30, Sound Beginnings, Early Learning Language Development, Best Practices for Early Learning Providers, presented by our co-workers, Gorgia Ross and Antoinette Shaw, our wonderful co-workers who are also EOC Quality and Education Coaching Specialists. And then we wanted to invite you for Throwback Thursday. We truly yours, me and Ida will be presenting our uh, Throwback Thursday webinar chat assessment. What's the next step? So Thursday, April 22nd, 1 to 2:30 p.m. And then also, it's still time to register. Please join us for our Broad Early Childhood Education Conference 2021, Making Connections. This year, of course, virtually. Hopefully, next year we get together again and meet face to face. So, still, you can register, go to our website, and join us for this Saturday. And also, if you have any questions and you want us to send you links for the videos, or we didn't have a chance to get a handouts or have difficulties with downloading them, you can contact us. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There's a lot of great information. We have Facebook story, time reading live, and all the information about the training and all the events uh, or happening in ELC in Broward. So these are our contact information. Before we let you go, dear teachers, thank you so much for all you do. And this is our little poem. I will teach you in a room. I will teach you now on Zoom. I will teach you in a house. I will teach you with my mouse. I will teach you here or there. I will teach you because I care. So this is a little poem that I wanted to read for you. And thank you so much for all you do again and for being with us this afternoon. We went over 10 minutes, so we apologize for that, but we're glad you're here with us. And before we let you go, Ida, would you like to say something?
Thank you for joining us. And yes, we went a little over, but we were so excited to give you all this wonderful information. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. And thank you for all that you do for the children of Broward. And be safe, everyone. And hopefully we'll see you, via Zoom at the conferences on Saturday. Take care. Thank you. Thank you, Agnes, as well.
Thank you, Ida. Have a great afternoon, everyone. And we see you or hear you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to leave this presentation a little, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, so everybody have a chance to download those handouts. So please, everyone, take care of yourself and be safe out there. Bye.